Welcome to the deep dive. Grab a seat, because we have a truly mind-bending piece of writing to unpack today.
Yeah, we really do.
We are looking at a text called The Veil of Isis, a visionary drama. And on its surface, it's framed as this lost fictional manuscript penned by the famous 19th century romantic poet Percy Bysshe Shelley, supposedly written in Lerici, Italy, around 1823.
Right, but it was actually written much more recently by authors Max and Claude.
Exactly. And the sheer ambition of this text is, well, it's staggering. It reads as a seamless blend of 19th century poetic drama, hard-hitting philosophy, and surprisingly enough, incredibly modern concepts like quantum mechanics.
What's fascinating here is how the text uses this antique, almost mythological framing to explore the ultimate questions of consciousness, the nature of reality, and the deep depths of human suffering. The real goal for you, listening to this deep dive today, is to explore how to live with profound questions that might not actually have answers. It operates as a guide to avoiding the trap of information overload by shifting our focus back to what it means to truly, viscerally experience life rather than just theorizing about it.
Okay, let's unpack this by jumping straight into Act 1. The script sets up this incredible, surreal scene. It's basically a cosmic waiting room.
The very intense waiting room.
Right. It is described as a landscape that is simultaneously a subterranean cave and the vast cosmos itself. There are these massive crystalline formations hanging from the ceiling that look like both stalactites and distant stars.
The imagery is just wild.
It is. And sitting right in the center of this impossible geometry is Isis, the veiled goddess. Standing before her is a fictionalized version of the poet, clearly representing Shelley, and the mythological titan, Prometheus. So why place these two specific figures together at the very edge of the universe?
Well, it creates a profoundly heavy setup. You have two figures who are fundamentally burdened by their own awareness. The poet is just desperate for absolute truth. He is exhausted by the surfaces of life, telling Isis he can no longer accept what he calls the decorated lie of appearances.
He wants the raw truth.
Exactly. He demands that she lift her veil, even if seeing the naked truth destroys him completely. He wants the absolute, unfiltered reality.
And Prometheus is standing right next to him, literally covered in the scars of his long torment. I mean, he is the titan who stole fire from the gods to give to humanity, which sparked human civilization.
Right, the ultimate rebel.
But here, he is questioning if his gift was actually a curse. He's wondering if that fire brought the terrible burden of self-awareness. Would humanity have been happier in a state of animal ignorance, rather than suffering the anxiety, the existential dread, and the profound isolation that comes with conscious thought?
Which leads to Isis redefining the very nature of her veil. She completely challenges their assumptions. She argues that her veil is not a barrier hiding the ultimate truth.
It's not a wall.
No, it's not. The veil is the truth. It is the necessary condition for any manifestation to exist at all. She explains that without the veil, reality would be pure, unmediated light that blinds, or pure sound that deafens.
Just total sensory overload.
Exactly. It would be an absolute static perfection that is practically equivalent to nothingness. Because in that state, there are no relationships, no distinctions, and no beauty. The veil acts as a prism. It splits the blinding, undifferentiated absolute into the beautiful, tragic, diverse spectrum of human experience.
What strikes me about Isis's explanation is how it reframes the ordinary routines of your daily life. She tells them the veil isn't a static wall, it is entirely dynamic.
How so?
Well, when you're completely present, when you're really paying attention to a conversation or feeling the wind on your face, not just running through your day on autopilot, the veil is thin. But when you were sleepwalking through your days, completely lost in mental chatter or rehearsing the past and stressing about the future, the veil is thick.
That makes a lot of sense. And exactly that dynamic nature of reality is expanded upon when the narrative shifts to a massive cosmic debate. The scene introduces what is called the Tribunal of Forms. 7 figures step out of the crystalline shadows, each embodying a different fundamental principle of reality.
The tribunal is such a wild concept for a romantic poem. The text outlines logos representing reason, eros representing love and desire, thanatos as death and dissolution, chronos as sequential, ticking time.
And kairos as the opportune eternal moment, plus ananke as necessity and tais as chance.
Right, and they all essentially put reality on trial. But how does the text actually illustrate these forces interacting?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the friction between these specific figures is where the text brilliantly weaves modern science into a 19th century setting. The characters start discussing concepts that belong firmly in modern physics. For instance, the text introduces the echoes, voices that bring up the idea of retrocausality.
Let me stop you there, because retrocausality is a heavy concept. How does a text styled as an 1823 manuscript handle the idea that the future reaches back to shape the past?
It frames it beautifully through the debate between Ananke, the rigidity of necessity, and Teshe, the wild card of chance. They debate what we now call the observer effect in quantum mechanics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they point out that the very act of observation in the present determines the state of a system in the past. Imagine a wave of possibilities crashing into a single reality only the moment you look at it.
So it's not all predetermined.
Right. It suggests reality isn't obligated to conform to human reason or sequential time. The future can ripple backwards, meaning effects can precede their causes. It is a terrifying thought for Logos, reason, who wants everything to be neat and sequential.
And out of all these cold, cosmic laws and quantum uncertainties, it is Eros love who steps up to provide the ultimate answer for existence. Eros explains that the universe is erotic at its core.
Not just in a romantic sense, though.
Right, not just romantic, meaning that the fundamental principle of reality is attraction and connection. The universe is the one desiring to become the many, so that the many can desire to become the one again. Out of all this chaotic multiplicity, love is the gravitational force seeking unity.
Which brings us to the breathtaking climax of Act 1. Persuaded by the poet's relentless demand and the tribunal's cosmic trial, Isis finally agrees to lift her veil.
The anticipation in the text is huge here.
Yeah.
She lifts the veil, and the poet and Prometheus instantly dissolve. They literally fracture into a kaleidoscope of images.
Just completely fall apart.
Yeah. The text describes the poet seeing himself simultaneously as a burning star, as a cold stone, as a newborn child, and as pure, unattached consciousness. They dissolve into blinding light, and when they are finally reconstituted, gasping and trembling, they realize the ultimate truth. Behind the veil of Isis
Is just another veil.
exactly, just another veil.
The mystery of existence is not a puzzle to be solved. There is no final, static truth to uncover at the bottom of the box. The endless process of veiling and unveiling, the friction, the mystery itself that is the very nature of reality.
So what happens to them after that massive realization? Act 2 opens with them being unceremoniously dropped back into the real world. But it looks like a ghostly, liminal city square where multiple eras of history seem to exist all at once. And here they bump into Hermes, the messenger god.
Hermes delivers a very crucial, grounding warning. He tells them they must not linger in this liminal space between worlds. Becoming so obsessed with the absolute, with the cosmic perspective of the tribunal and the veil, makes you entirely detached from ordinary life.
You just become a ghost.
Precisely. If you stay in the doorway, you become a ghost. You become useless to both the visionary realm and the material world. He urges them to accept the freedom and the burden of creating meaning down in the finite world.
Which leads to one of the most memorable and grounded scenes in the entire text. They choose to fully incarnate back into the material world, and suddenly they're sitting in a bustling, fire-lit tavern. The text describes the smell of roasting meat and spilled wine. They're eating dark bread and cheese, still buzzing from their cosmic journey, discussing high philosophy.
A huge contrast from the cosmic waiting room.
Completely. And they strike up a conversation with an uneducated serving girl who is clearing their table. She casually mentions that one night, walking home in the freezing air after an exhausting shift, she looked up at the stars and experienced a total, terrifying, and thrilling sense of cosmic unity. She felt that the dark space between her and the stars was a complete illusion, and that everything was breathing as one single organism.
It is a perfect illustration of democratic mysticism. It is the profound realization that enlightenment is not reserved for intellectuals or philosophers like the poet, or mystics dedicating their lives to esoteric practices in monasteries. It is available right there in the ordinary, sometimes gritty texture of daily life.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
There is an old man sitting nearby in the tavern who subtly hints that he is Diotima, a figure of ancient wisdom, and he confirms this for them. He says he spent his entire life seeking secret knowledge across the globe, scaling mountains and reading ancient scrolls, only to realize that the exhausted serving girl carrying dirty plates had touched the exact same profound truth.
Now, while they are in this tavern, the text introduces a really grounded, gritty debate taking place at another table. A group of exhausted workers are fiercely discussing their conditions. Now, as a quick reminder to you listening, we're just impartially reporting on the narrative beats here, not taking any political sides. But the workers are planning a strike against the owners of their factories, debating how to build solidarity across borders to fight against capitalist exploitation.
Right, it's a very grounded material struggle.
Exactly. Prometheus watches this, and the text reveals his internal monologue. He recognizes this modern wage labor struggle as the new chains of the modern age, echoing his own chaining to the rock. But instead of jumping up, declaring himself a titan, and leading their revolution with cosmic fire, Prometheus holds back.
He stays in his seat.
Yes. He realizes he cannot force a revolution for humanity. The people must find their own fire. The gift of liberation is poisoned if it is not earned by the people themselves.
It shows incredible growth for Prometheus. He shifts from being the solitary, rebellious hero taking fire from the gods to realizing that true, sustainable change requires a deeper evolution of consciousness among the people themselves. He learns restraint, which is perhaps harder for a titan than rebellion.
Here's where it gets really interesting and, honestly, absolutely agonizing to read. We transition into Act 3. The intellectual realization of restraint that Prometheus learned is put to the ultimate test when we look at what happens next to the poet in his personal life. The poet Shelley is living in Italy with his companion Mary. He is fervently writing this visionary manuscript we've been discussing, but then a messenger arrives with a devastating letter.
Yeah, this part is incredibly tough.
His 3-year-old son, William, has died of a fever in Rome.
It is the ultimate crucible of the entire text. This sudden, visceral tragedy completely shatters the poet's lofty cosmic philosophy. All of those profound realizations he had in the cosmic waiting room about the unity of being and the illusions of separateness. They offer absolutely zero comfort against the physical, permanent absence of his child.
Not at all.
He is plunged into a profound, suffocating despair, realizing that a cosmic consciousness of the absolute means nothing against the deafening silence where his son's laughter used to be.
Driven by this sheer, unadulterated agony, the poet forces his way back into the visionary realm one last time to demand answers. He stands before Isis, completely broken, and he rages against the seemingly meaningless suffering of the material world. He demands a reason. He wants a cosmic justification for why his 3-year-old boy had to die.
And the response he receives from Isis, who is now joined by the figure of Asia, is profoundly difficult, yet deeply moving. They do not offer him a neat philosophical bow to tie around his grief. They tell him plainly that there is no why.
No reason at all.
No reason. There's no cosmic justification that makes the loss acceptable or mathematically balanced. But they tell him that the grief itself is sacred. The grief is the undeniable heavy proof of his love. They urge him not to try and transcend the pain or explain it away with his poetic philosophy.
Just to sit with it.
Exactly. To hold that unbearable tension, the cosmic reality of eternal awareness existing right alongside the excruciating human reality of a particular irreplaceable loss, that very act of bearing the unbearable is what makes humanity holy.
The text describes the poet returning to the waking world, choosing to embrace his finite life and the heavy burden of his grief. He finishes writing his manuscript, making it a testament to that exact impossible tension. And then, the narrative reaches its dramatic climax.
The final scene.
The poet takes his small sailing boat out onto the Mediterranean. The sky bruises purple, and a violent storm rolls in. The text describes him standing at the tiller as the waves crest over the bow, shouting into the wind, fully present and wildly alive to the danger. The boat capsizes. The manuscript is lost to the dark water, and he drowns. He accepts the veil of the water closing over his head as his final transition.
But the narrative doesn't end with his physical death. The text follows his spirit rising up through the water, looking down at his own lifeless body tossing in the waves. From this new eternal perspective, Isis speaks to him one last time. And it is here that the poet finally sees the whole picture.
What does he see?
He realizes that the human limitation he fought against his entire life, the veil of a single finite perspective, was actually the true gift all along. It was the limitation of time and space that made love possible, that made every single moment urgent and precious, that allowed the infinite, undifferentiated universe to actually experience the sharp, beautiful reality of a particular life.
The text gives us an incredibly touching epilogue to help frame all of this. It jumps forward to 1839, years later. Mary Shelley is sitting alone in her room, carefully handling the water-damaged, ink-stained pages of the Veil of Isis, preparing the manuscript for publication. She writes a brief note explaining that it doesn't matter whether her late husband's vision of Isis in the tribunal was a literal experience or simply a symbolic fiction he invented.
The literal truth isn't the point.
Right. The actual truth of the manuscript lies in its ability to help the reader live more fully, to face the terrifying mystery of existence with an open heart, and to love more fiercely while we have the time.
This raises an important question for all of us, synthesizing everything we've discussed today. How do we live as amphibious creatures?
Amphibious creatures are like that.
Yeah. How do we navigate the profound, infinite mysteries of consciousness and the cosmos while still caring deeply and passionately about the finite, ordinary, and sometimes incredibly painful details of our daily human lives?
That is the core takeaway you have to carry with you from this deep dive. The Veil of Isis is not some grand mythological wall keeping you from the ultimate truth. It is the very fabric of your daily life. Every interaction you have at a coffee shop, every mundane task at work, every moment of overwhelming joy, and every instance of deep, world-shattering grief. These are all the veil, and they are all opportunities for unveiling. The ordinary is the ultimate.
And if we return to that mind-bending concept of retrocausality mentioned by the Tribunal of Forms, the idea that the future can ripple backwards and reach back to shape the past.
Oh, this is the perfect thought to leave you with today. If retrocausality suggests that the future can reach back and shape the past, how might the person you're becoming right now be subtly reaching back through time, influencing the choices, the path, and even the struggles you're experiencing today? Are your current challenges, your current moments of grief or confusion, just echoes of the future you, guiding you toward exactly where you need to be? Something to ponder as you navigate your own veil today. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.